So today I'd just like to show you a bit of the journey that I've been going through so far. So as I said, at the heart of our activity, the ultimate goal is us ushering in the age of the car-free city. But before I began AYARF, I tried to convey the absurdness of urban life that focuses too much on the private car. Mainly, I tried to convey this using visual stimuli such as this. This is supposed to be a video, but I wasn't able to incorporate it properly. But this video is supposed to show how a typical citizen in Seoul starts the day by avoiding cars. So this is someone trying to get to their local bus stop. But if you see the video, she has to constantly check for cars that are coming from behind. Or I'd use visual stimuli like this. So this is a picture that shows just how marginalized pedestrians have become in the city. Of course, it's not the tree's fault, it's car-centric urban design that's at fault. And this was the other day in Gangnam. This was a very heavy foot traffic area, but I was really surprised to see that there was a parking lot that took up most of the sidewalk, and if you see, the sidewalk is only the width of one person, but this person eventually won't be able to get through because there's another car here, so that's why most people are going through in between these two cars. So by using these visual examples, I've been concentrating so far a lot on polar opposites and these kind of stark juxtapositions. So for example, I've been trying to ask people this question: do car-free streets like this upset you? Or I'd be asking questions like this: what about people-free streets? So the caption here, it reads, pedestrians cannot be seen because cars are blocking the view, and this is a really typical street in Seoul. And sometimes I'd even ask questions like, can you even drive? Because it's been proven by research that a lot of drivers think that they're better than they actually are at their driving skills. So this was my initial approach: to instigate and to provoke, use meme culture, and try to use viral imagery. But this kind of changed while I was here at AYARF. So far, what I learned from AYARF is that this kind of way of instigating people was a very unhuman and naive approach. I've been basing my approach assuming that I would have little contact with the people that I needed to convince. And even though I knew that a more holistic framework was necessary, I only now kind of fully realize how important having that kind of holistic framework is. So I've decided to change my approach a little bit to be more rational and more empathic and more inclusive, because people actually do really want to talk about these issues on a more deeper level. That's one of the main takeaways that I gained from AYARF, is that previously I would be talking about car-free cities and theorizing about car-free cities. I've been doing that for about 2 years, but mostly it was within our internal group of 4 or 5 people, and plus my mom. I've only been able to talk about it to a very small group of people. One, because I didn't have the platform or the experience yet, but 2, also because I was afraid, in a sense, because I already knew that people have a lot of emotional attachment to cars, so I was afraid. So this was actually the first chance that I got to talk to 20 plus people from 7 plus nations, and it was a really great sounding board for my ideas and previous thinking. So now I'm going to try to show you a few preliminary gatherings to the end that where I'm trying to be more rational and empathic and inclusive in my future dialogue. So this is one of those where I'm trying to where I'll be using to try to convey the issue of safety and how dangerous cars actually are. So this is In 2016, a road user died every 23 seconds, and in 2018, car crashes globally was the #1 killer for people aged 5 to 29 years old. Another kind of empirical piece of data is related to car speeds and the likeliness of severe injury. So if you slow down from 60 kilometers to 30 kilometers per hour, you decrease the likeliness of severe injury by almost 80%. And if you slow down 30 more kilometers in the urban setting, you can decrease your stopping distance to 6 meters. Another little piece of empirical data is if you decrease your speed limit from 60 kilometers an hour to 50 kilometers an hour, it only adds 2 minutes 10 seconds to your journey. So regarding efficiency, faster travel speeds in the city is not proportionate to the time savings. This is a picture of Beijing in 2015. The city banned half of its cars for 2 weeks. The top picture is when during the ban, and right after the ban, it went back to looking like this. Another part for the environment is it is well known that cars account for at least 25% of particle dust, and also energy consumption and CO2 emission levels are also around about 25% for urban settings. This is typical of most cities. That's how it is for Seoul. But in the US in 2015, that 25% threshold is toppled. So in the US, transportation has now taken over power generation as the #1 source of CO2 emissions. Regarding space use, so this is again a preliminary attempt at some of the infographic knowledge I gained here. So in Seoul, if you look at the number of pedestrian crossings per kilometer, you have almost 9 times more parking lots per kilometer than you have pedestrian crossings. You have almost 4 times more length of road than the length of the sidewalk. And before, if I try to use a bit more stimulating visuals, this is my attempt at trying to be a bit more sensible and trying to present people some more sensible scenarios. Right now, we're stuck here where this is typical of Seoul, the main streets in Seoul. So it's dominated, the road space is dominated by cars. And what I would like to suggest in the future is what if we switch to trams or light rail and bus only lanes. So right here you can see that in Seoul the bus lanes and the bike lanes are in one lane, and I don't really know how this is sensible to a lot of urban designers, but it can be in some circumstances where there's already a lot of traffic coming, but I wouldn't say in Seoul. So maybe if we could change it to this type of layout, or we could also change it to a layout that looks like this, where there's dedicated lanes for personal mobility like bikes and e-scooters only on each side, and a more prominent pedestrian promenade in the center and on the edges. Or we could actually use all this road space that used to be taken up by cars by putting in more affordable housing units, maybe. And so this is a last bit of material that I'm going to focusing on in the future is making a set of succinct and also very general overarching set of frequently asked questions. So just to briefly go over some of the questions I've got so far is, what happens to the auto industry and its workers? Are there any car-free cities right now? What happens to existing roads in a car-free city? Isn't it costly to depave existing roads? What if local buses do not take me where I need to go? What about the last mile problem? What about hilly terrain? A car seems like the best way to travel uphill. I'm really excited to ride autonomous vehicles and flying cars. why are you trying to stop me? Elderly citizens or people with special needs may rely solely on cars. So these types of questions, I'm gathering more. One more part is that for the environmental sector, obviously, I feel like there's a lot more agglomeration of information and material available to citizens if they want to participate in the movement, and this is just some of the material that citizens actually wish. Citizens usually wish to see some very easy, actionable items that they can try to, adhere to during their daily life. So maybe if I could do the same for car-free cities, it might look a little bit like this. So, for instance, maybe people could use stickers that advocate the cause, such as like the warm car stickers, or in Seoul we have a really good app. I'd like to try to encourage more people to report bad driving and bad parking. You could also try to build your own pedestrian safety equipment. This is a project that we did, but it's actually against the law to do it properly, so you have to caution. And also in Seoul there are these policies that give you points if you drive less. If you can still have your car, but you can still try to drive less and earn points at the same time. Or maybe this could be a step further than your typical citizen. If you're a building owner, if you're a small building owner, you could try to increase the fees for parking. That's what they're doing right now in Seoul Innovation Park, and it seems to be deterring a lot of people from commuting by car. This is also another further step. So a group of youth in the Philippines dared the senior officials of government to try commuting by public transportation. And one of the officials actually did take on this challenge. It took him 4 hours to commute. And so these kind of daring campaigns could also make a difference. In Copenhagen, you actually get an annual convention that focuses solely on cargo bikes. I don't think you get that anywhere else on the planet. So maybe we could try a movement of building a bike. Again, this is slightly more effort required on the part of the citizen, but eventually I'd like to get here. So I still have a lot more interviews to conduct, but for some of the more brief interviews I did during the past 4 days, they were really brief interviews, but I still really got a lot of insight from them. So just to highlight a few, Oh-hyun told me that public transportation so far has been dull and unexciting. So there's this image in the public mind that transportation is kind of dull, and people want to see a little bit more excitement in the daily commute, such as maybe like having moving walks along the pedestrian sidewalk, or that's I guess that's why people really like the notion of flying cars. But anyways, talking to Eugene, she told me that you really have to try to learn the processes that some of the pioneering cities have undergone, because backlash is quite a problem, and typically you only just take in from case studies what's been done, but not the process behind of how it's been done. Also, another really good insight was from Dr. Lee from the Seoul Institute, where she told me that I should incorporate road workers, such as people cleaning our streets, people picking up litter from our streets, as one of the key stakeholders in being car-free. This is some of the challenges I've been able to identify for the past 4 days, but obviously still a lot of work to do. Yeah, so just to reiterate, my whole point of coming to AYARF was even in the pioneering cities such as Copenhagen or Amsterdam, you see testimonials of government officials actually taking to the streets with a willingness to engage with the public and trying to educate the public, trying to actively win converts. This is what I would really like to do, but like I said, I felt that there was a lack of succinct material which I could utilize in doing this. So right now, there are a ton of related topics and subtopics to car-free cities. Some of these could be arranged in a really good framework in English, but as I said, not so much in Korean so far. So that's what I will be focusing to do in the coming days, coming weeks. Yeah, this is just an example of what type of holistic framework that already exists in some of the more environmental focused movements, but I just like to emphasize again that I feel like there's a lack in the area of car-free cities. Yes, that would be it. Thank you.